You know what, Alex? What's really funny is the reports now say, the forensic reports say, that most of the carbon problems in America are brought in from the trade winds from the Far East, from China and Japan. And these countries don't want to do anything about their carbon emissions. I think it's time for us to say we can handle our economic problems, and the world can handle theirs too. But good fences make good make good friends.
Stay there. Jim Traficant, former Congressman from Ohio, is our guest. We'll talk about Oklahoma City straight ahead and a lot more in his campaign, how you can get involved in it, getting back in Congress. We are back live with Jim Traficant. What an interesting person. You know, he's not only a former congressman, he was drafted into the NFL by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1963. He also obtained a master's degree from the University of Pittsburgh and another from Youngstown State University. We're going to be going back to him here in just a moment and talk about Oklahoma City and some other subjects, and also take some phone calls for the congressman, and they can also talk about the experiences they've had with law enforcement and the military being militarized to go up against the American people. But Jim Traficant is our guest. We've had 2 new films come out in the month of April. And one is Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined. 2 hours plus, jam-packed, 18 months in the making, government narcotics trafficking, white slavery running, staging terror attacks, police state, how the globalists operate. I mean, it's an encyclopedia. The new film available on DVD at Infowars.com. And your purchase of the DVD also supports our broadcast. You can make copies of it, give it to everyone you know. The people are ready to be awakened. And I don't really get the credit for the effect this show's having. It's really you, the listeners, that are taking action. So I want to thank all of you that have taken action. And then, of course, we released this film last week, Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA. A year in the making, covers the police state, the military being trained to take on the American people, and so much more. It proves that the underwear bombing was a staged event with eyewitnesses that we interviewed that were on the plane and that saw the feds getting him on the plane, and that's now been admitted, by the way. Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA. You can get both the films together and get them discounted, or you can also call toll-free to order 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. And you can also watch the films in super high quality and this live broadcast that we simulcast for the radio at prisonplanet.tv. Going back to Jim Traficant. Jim, Oklahoma City. I mean, take us back to 1995. And again, the reason I bring this up is, I mean, you've been involved in everything I investigate. If it's exposing tyranny, you find Jim Traficant there. I didn't even know that no member of Congress would talk to her and other survivors of that horrible bombing, that she saw the feds in there, what she later learned, planting bombs with telephone wire and gray sticks of butter in the weeks before, including Tim McVeigh and others. And that when she and others brought you this information, that you were the only person that would look at it, and that she said that your staff said that you were threatened to shut up about it, but that you wouldn't shut up. So give us your take on what happened there.
Number one, I don't think there's any way that truckload of fertilizer that exploded outside could have had the type of impact internally that showed from that. And immediately, I had my doubts. What's amazing about it is, the reason I was the only one is Congress is afraid. Most members of Congress don't want to get involved in anything. First of all, they're made to look like a kook if you do. Second of all, they're made to look like you're un-American if you do, because they're going to have the mainstream press against you. But since the Deminick case, everybody would rely on me, and I got most of the information. What I found out and what I felt would happen to Oklahoma City, that there was much broader conspiracy and activity involved there, and I wouldn't be surprised if for some reason that there were complications that involved government and government officials as well. That's what my deduction was. But I couldn't get to first base with anything, Alex, and you have to understand, you have to have something concrete, which I was able to develop in the Deminick case. They couldn't get around the evidence, but I had to send it to an Israeli Supreme Court to get anything done with it. So you could imagine the problem I was getting trying to get and garner and glean more information relative to the Oklahoma City bombing. But what I can say is this: there's a lot more to it, and I don't believe anything anymore the government is telling the American people. Now, I don't want to get involved in the 911 issue, but I have my doubts about 911 as well. Now, remember, I got the Deminick information, and I got the actual factual information on Pan Am 103. And I know exactly what happened to Pan Am 103. And it's not what our government said happened.
Tell us what happened with Pan Am 103.
The report I got was an intelligence report that said a man named Ahmed Jibril and Mansour al-Qassar were hired by Iran to respond to America's shooting down of that Iranian Airbus, if you recall that.
Yes.
And they put together an international team, and they couldn't find a target. And Mansour al-Qassar, who shipped heroin from the Golden Triangle to New York through Frankfurt, started to see Ahmed Jibril's people around Frankfurt Airport. And supposedly he was worried it was going to ruin his gravy train, and there was an anonymous call made warning there's going to be a terrorist act around the airport, but there was no increase in security to more or less chase Ahmed Jibril away. The bottom line is the plane went down over Lockerbie. It was supposed to go down over the ocean, but wind drift took it over Lockerbie. Here's the things I could tell you. Number one, there was an anonymous call made at Frankfurt International with no increase in security. And second of all, 2 weeks after the incident, first President Bush asked for Ahmed Jibril to be extradited to the United States, and Syria denied it. Mansour al-Qassar was the biggest heroin man, and he made his living shipping to America. Now, what the report said was that he was influential, Alex, in getting French hostages released from Iran, and he was working with the CIA Lebanon office to get American hostages. At the time, I believe there were 8 there, Alex. It said that there was nothing good happening, so the CIA sent a team to see what was going on, headed by an Army Major McKee from Pittsburgh on leave to the CIA. Alex, all of those 5 CIA agents and Major McKee were killed on that 103 flight. But what it was is our government, the report says, covered up the truthful incident because the American people knew that heroin was being overlooked because this valuable asset, Mansour al-Qassar, did be a revolution over here. So the first thing the government said is Traficant's anti-government. CIA said it's nonsense, and naturally no one went with it. But Connie Chung went with it. And the truth of the matter was, they ended up arresting these 2 Libyans. One of them was even released. And believe me, if they were guilty, they'd have choked on a chicken bone over there in Gaddafi's prison. This is the truth of what happened in 103. So I didn't have the time to look into 911, but I'll tell you this. I was starting to get reports, Alex. People were starting to confide in me. And what I don't like is I don't believe the commission. I didn't believe the Warren Commission, and I didn't believe the commission on 911. I believe these commissions are nothing more than to ensure that there's no reprisals and repercussions from the American people. And I think that's why they're concerned about you. I think you're exposing these things. And I think America's better off if we know the truth. If we know the truth about our government. And this is where I think the problem is. The American people don't trust the government anymore, and I see a tremendous upheaval. I see an American political revolution. Now, maybe 2010 may not be the actual fulcrum for that occurring, but it's not far off, Alex. You're going to see a tremendous upheaval in this country where the American people are going to respond to this illegal immigration issue, this so-called cap-and-trade type issue, this big government health care issue with 159 new boards, and going to, in fact, insure almost 50 million illegal immigrants. There's a hell of a lot more than 12 to 15 illegals in this country, Alex. When the truth comes out, I think the American people are going to revolt. But I think it's going to be a peaceful revolution, and let me say this. I know that you've never advocated violence, but you are advocating that the American people take a stand. Now, what bothers me is they're trying to paint this Tea Party as something sinister, and it's not. You know what bothers me more than that is all these politicians keep saying, we need you to vote, we need you to get involved in government. Well, here's a group that's getting involved. They're getting very involved, and everybody's saying, whoa, we don't want you to be involved.
Well, it's what they're calling for. I mean, they're calling for lower taxes, abolish the Federal Reserve, have national sovereignty, defend our borders, defend the Second Amendment, do what this country was built on, to be Americans. And that was the question I was about to bring back up. Bill Clinton and others go on TV and say, gee, I hope there isn't another Oklahoma City caused by the Tea Parties, but I'm afraid it's going to happen. The only card that criminal elements of the government can play is to stage a terror attack, another Oklahoma City in this country, to go after the American people. And I see them framing myself by name, but the entire Tea Party and libertarians and Ron Paul as causing whatever is about to happen. I mean, that looks like 2 + 2 = 4 to me. I mean, the only card they can play is a staged terror attack.
Alex, is very unfortunate. Now, I've said this without disrespect, but I'm going to say it right here on your show. They don't call Clinton Slick Willie for nothing. The Democrats are worried. They're worried that the American people are going to take their venom out on the party in power, as they did years ago when they threw Hastert and the Republicans out. Truth of the matter is both of these parties have been compromised. I talked about it on the Greta Van Susteren show. I talked about it on your show. I've been labeled an anti-Semite. We have basically a foreign nation, Israel, who's controlling the American Congress. They've got us in 2 wars and have bankrupted us. And now we're in a situation where the American people are saying, why are our kids coming back in body bags? What are we doing over there? Why are we continuing to go bankrupt with these wars?